So focusing, staying on task, keeping your head in the game, or whichever name you'd like to give it, I think this is something that we've all struggled with at some point in our lives. And some of you might say that it's even more so as of the last couple of decades with the advent of Facebook and social media and TikTok in your pocket and all these things, but I don't think that's necessarily true. I think humanity has always been particularly adept at shifting their focus quickly between different tasks. You could say it's an evolutionary advantage to try to always stay aware of your surroundings, or you could say it's simply a part of human nature. But I don't necessarily think that these things are the cause of all our troubles. However, in the modern era, if you have goals and objectives, distractions are definitely something that can get in the way of you achieving them. So today I thought I would share with you some of the reasons that I've found that make it difficult for you to stay focused, in the hopes that if we shed some light on the situation, it might help us find a solution. Now, if this is your first time in my channel, my name is Gabriel. I'm a business owner based in Tokyo, Japan. But to tell you the truth, before I became a business owner, I actually spent most of my life training to become a professional classical musician. And if there's something that most people know about the world of classical music, is that it's a very rigorous field in which if you don't develop strong discipline skills, your chances of survival are very slim. So today I would like to share with you some of the best advice I ever received from that world when it comes to being disciplined and staying focused. So during my life as a musician, one of the most frustrating days I would ever have was when I would go into my practice room with the aim of doing some serious work for the day. And it wouldn't be until many hours later or at the end of the day that I would realize that I had barely made any progress at all. I wasn't any closer to finishing the piece than I was the previous day. And it took me an embarrassingly long amount of time to realize what the problem actually was. It wasn't until my mentor actually told me that I was missing a crucial ingredient from my practice. I would come every day into my practice room, ready to face the day, but I didn't have any specific guidelines of what I was about to do. I didn't have a plan. But to understand what it really means to have a plan, I think it's important to understand what distractions really are. And this is something that I found actually very eye-opening when I first understood it. The opposite of distraction, contrary to what you might think, is not concentration. It's actually traction. So if we define traction as moving towards your goal and your objectives, then distraction would be anything that makes you move in the opposite direction. So in order to have a clear idea of what it is that you're moving towards and what you're moving away from, it is essential to have a plan. Because if you don't have any direction, then you're not moving away from anything, but that also means that you're not moving towards anything in particular. And that's exactly the position that I found myself in many times. I would get into my practice room, close the door behind me, open my violin case, and then say, well, okay, maybe let's play this or let's play that. But because I didn't have any particular direction to move towards, that's when I would start doing all the other things. Just turn around the different pieces that I would have to play without actually making any particular progress. And that, in my opinion, is the single most significant mistake you can make when it comes to making progress. You need to have a plan. The day that I decided to start making concise work plans every day was the day that I started noticing significant progress in my performances and my ability to learn new repertoire. I would go into my practice room and say, okay, today we'll work on bars 50 to 150, and I would build them up one by one until I could eventually put them all together. And since I had a plan, I had a direction to which I was going, I knew that the moment I fulfill my goal, fulfill my objective for the day, then it's time to move on to the next one. And this constant impulse, this constant rhythm of movement actually keeps you motivated, and it becomes a feedback loop that allows you to continue making more and more progress. But of course, we know that there are many other factors that can influence how you feel on a given day. So even though you might think that you're taking all the right steps, taking all the right actions, you could also feel that you're not getting the work done in a way that you want. You cannot pretend that every day is going to be perfect, so you might be feeling some sort of emotional turmoil, or maybe some psychological blockages or obstacles that are getting in the way, such as a feeling of hopelessness or anxiety. And in those cases, I think instead of trying to bang your head against the table to get the work done, I think it's important to try to bring some awareness to how you're feeling, but not in any particularly pseudoscience-y way, but to pragmatically be aware of how you're feeling so that you can address it. For example, in the case of hopelessness and anxiety, which I think are two of the most common emotional obstacles you might have when it comes to doing work, I think Alex Hormozi put it in a brilliant way. He says, sadness comes from a lack of options, which is why it feels like hopelessness. Anxiety comes from many options but lack of priorities, which is why it feels like paralysis. Looking everywhere but moving nowhere. solve sadness with knowledge and anxiety with a decision. Many times in our lives, we feel that we're struggling with obstacles that we're not sure we can handle, whether because we feel we lack the necessary knowledge or we just don't know in which direction we should go. So when you find yourself in that situation, ask yourself whether you think it's coming from a place of hopelessness or a place of anxiety. For example, if it was still me feeling those things as a musician, hopelessness could very well be tackling a particularly difficult piece and being overwhelmed by not being sure how to approach it. In which case, the problem could be solved by gathering technical knowledge and approaching the piece from a different angle or in smaller portions at a time. Instead of trying to jump over the whole mountain at once, you climb the mountain one step at a time. And anxiety could be me having to build a concert program which consists of 10 different pieces that I have to play, and then during my practice session, I don't know which piece I should start with. I don't know which one requires more of my attention, and I don't know which one should be the main focus of the program. And in that case, the best way to solve the problem is by forcing yourself to make a decision and sticking with it. Because analysis paralysis is a real thing, and the best way to solve it is by forcing yourself to make a decision. So there's a saying that goes, maybe I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it goes, humans are modern software running on Stone Age hardware or on primitive hardware. And what this means is that over the past hundreds of thousands of years, our minds have evolved and become more adept at receiving, processing and adopting new information at higher and higher speeds. Now, you could say, of course, that this is an evolutionary advantage for us to be able to continuously adapt to our ever-changing circumstances, but on the other hand, our bodies have been changing at a much slower rate. And you could argue that that's because we've basically gotten entirely rid of our natural selection process. But that's a subject for a different video, or maybe for a different channel entirely. The point is that as things stand now, we are like running the latest version of Mac OS on one of the first Apple computers. And so you can imagine that there's going to be a little bit of a discrepancy when it comes to the processing speeds of the two. What that means is that at times when you're doing a particular kind of work, a work that requires some form of physical expression, like playing a musical instrument or weightlifting at the gym, you might find that mentally you understand the concepts perfectly, but you feel that your body is not exactly responding in the way that you want it to yet. And this is generally because the body might take a little bit longer to develop the awareness of these movements and its own position in space when it comes to doing things you might have never done before. But I'm sure you understand how this dissonance or this difference in processing speeds between your mind and your body can, for lack of a better word, throw you off and affect your ability to focus. But it's important to understand that this is a natural part of the process, and when you find yourself in that situation, the best thing to do is to move on to the next task, to let your body process the information, and then you can come back and tackle it again. And little by little you might find that your body becomes more coordinated and you become more aware of its own movements. But of course, in order for your body to be able to process things in the best way possible, it has to be in prime condition. And that means you have to take care of it in the right way. Now, even though these are things that everyone has already talked about, it's important to mention them. You have to eat the right way, you have to do some form of physical activity, and you have to get the right amount of sleep. We've all been there. You had a rough night last night, so you wake up in the morning and you're feeling heavy and sluggish. So you have a bad workout at the gym, and then you have a bad day at work, and it's all because you feel that your body is not in the right condition. But believe me, it goes much further than just feeling well rested or being in shape or having a clear skin or whatever else. Your ability to focus and to process information correctly is directly connected to the condition of your body. The way you treat your body is also going to be directly reflected in its processing speed, its ability to receive and accept new information, adapt to new movements, new challenges and newer and bigger loads. Just like if you have a car and you take proper care of the engine and you change the oil whenever it needs to be changed, you can extend the lifetime of the car. In the same way, you're allowing yourself to use your body at its full potential when it's in its best condition. So generally we all talk about the mental side of focus, the kind of mental work we need to do to be able to stay focused. But it's also important to be aware of the physical side of focus and to not neglect it, because your ability to focus is going to manifest into the physical world through your body, so you have to take care of it. And just like that, there are many other habits and skills that you can develop in order to live a more productive life. So if you'd like to learn more about that, make sure you watch this video right here. In the meantime, take care, and I'll see you next time.